guys, it's Kristen, and today we are going to be talking about Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. Initially, when I first heard that they were even making this movie, I was a little bit apprehensive. I mean, Jumanji's a classic, nobody can replace Robin Williams, and I just didn't really know what we would be expecting. Once we started getting trailers though, I was like, this actually looks pretty good and I really want to see it. And unfortunately I did not get a chance to see it before the new year, otherwise it definitely would have made it into my favorite movies of 2017 video. But I've seen it now and I really want to talk about it. The first thing I want to talk about is my thoughts on it in general, my review. The second is that there are way more original Jumanji references than meets the eye in this film. And the third is actually a theory I sort of have about Alan Parrish and how he connects to this new film. I will warn you, there are a ton of spoilers in this video, so enter at your own risk. Make sure to watch the movie and come back and talk about it with me. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So in this film, we start off in 1996, which is only 1 year after Alan Parrish's Jumanji adventures. And we meet a kid named Alex, whose dad was walking on the beach and found the Jumanji board game. And he brings it back to him and Alex is like, this is kind of lame, not into it. So the board game transforms itself into the height of game popularity, a video game. Alex plays it and mysteriously disappears. Now we fast forward up to the present day and we're following these 4 kids in high school who all have detention. They end up discovering the game, they play it, and they get sucked into Jumanji. I think this is really fun because we get to meet each of the individual teenage characters and their little personalities, and then they crash land in Jumanji and they're being played by some of the biggest actors in Hollywood, and they're really playing against type here and they're doing it so well. For instance, you start out with Alex Wolff as a teenage Spencer, who's this shy, nerdy guy who's afraid of everything, and then when he goes into Jumanji, he's played by Dwayne Johnson, and he's playing Smolder Bravestone, this really adventurous, handsome, muscly, brave guy. And at the same time, he's still that nerdy kid on the inside. And Dwayne Johnson did such a great job in this role. He was really funny. He really tapped into that. And I feel like all the main actors really, embraced that inner teenager in them and did such a good job with it. Kevin Hart tackles Fridge, who is this 6-foot-something popular football player, and he turns into this small little zoologist named Mouse Finbar. And seriously, in my theater, every single time Kevin Hart said anything, people were cracking up. It was contagious. They loved him in this film. Karen Gillan came in as the closed-off Martha, who becomes the murderer of men, Ruby Roundhouse, who has this kind of Tomb Raider wardrobe going on. I thought she did a really great job of bringing in that awkwardness of just not being comfortable in this new form. Like when they were teaching her how to flirt, it was so funny because she was just so goofy and awkward and it's like relatable. And finally, one of my favorites was Jack Black as the beautiful and popular Bethany, who ends up becoming the cartographer, aka this older middle-aged man named Professor Shelley Oberon. Black was so perfect in this role. He brought like the perfect amount of teenage sass and it wasn't overkill or anything like that. He was just so funny. Now this whole motley crew must work together to defeat the evil villain Van Pelt and basically win Jumanji and go home. Along the way, they do end up meeting Alex, who is the guy at the very beginning of the film in 1996 who goes missing. He's in the game too. He is played by Nick Jonas, and his character is Seaplane McDonough. And I was so excited because I knew Nick Jonas was in this movie, but I forgot, I guess, or I didn't know what he was gonna be doing. So when he came out, I was like, oh, it's Nick Jonas! And I thought he was perfect in the role, and there was just something that was funny about it being like Nick Jonas, I also thought he was pretty lucky because he actually had one of the biggest moments in the entire movie, which was revealing that Robin Williams tribute. It turns out he's actually been surviving in Jumanji by living in the treehouse that Robin Williams' character had built in the original movie, and they even have a piece of wood that says Alan Parrish was here on it, and that was really huge. Now that was one of the more obvious moments that referenced the original movie, but I want to get into some of the other ones that I noticed. So first of all, the film actually takes place in the same town that the original movie took place in, which is Brantford, New Hampshire. And they also find the Jumanji game on a beach, which is right where it ends in the original movie. They also make a reference to Officer Carl Bentley, played by David Alan Grier, with their school principal. His name is Principal Bentley. Then when the kids are in detention, they're tasked with taking staples out of magazines, and one of the magazines features Robin Williams. In this film, the main characters get sucked into the game and then they have to rescue someone. That's actually very similar to the storyline of the animated Jumanji TV show, which came out in 1996, which is ironic because 1996 is when our character Alex gets sucked into the game. Also, the fact that we're getting sucked into this game is really cool because we're finally getting to see where Alan Parrish was for 26 years. You know, this is where he lived and survived before he got out of the game. Also, later on, Alex ends up naming his kids Alan and Bethany. Alan as a tribute to Robin Williams, and also probably to the fact that he stayed alive due to staying in that treehouse that Alan created, and Bethany, who saved his life at the end of the game. Now, when it comes to the game itself, our evil villain is named Van Pelt, which is the same name as the villain in the original movie. The difference here is that the original Van Pelt was an animal hunter, whereas this Van Pelt can actually speak to animals and kind of has them do his bidding. I would also say there's a pretty big symbolic connection here because the actor who played Van Pelt in the original movie also played Alan Parrish's dad in that movie. And that was sort of as a way to mirror the struggles that Alan and his dad had. And in this movie, they do a similar thing. With Van Pelt's backstory, he used to be best friends with Bravestone, and then they became rivals. And that's very similar to the relationship that Spencer and Fridge have, where they used to be best friends, and now they're not anymore. When we get to the end of the film, and Van Pelt is finally defeated, there's a moment where he kind of explodes into mice, and they like crawl away, and it's really creepy. And what's ironic there is that in the Jumanji game, Fridge is playing a character named Mouse. And I feel like that is sort of showing the connection that, like, first of all, Van Pelt in both movies is really an important figure, and also how, like, in this film, the fact that they were able to defeat Van Pelt, they really fixed Spencer and Fridge's friendship. That was kind of like a symbolic thing. I know we're getting pretty deep over here, but I just really loved this film, and there was so many things that I wanted to dive into. I did a lot of research into this film after watching it and before doing this review, just because there's so many cool things going on here that I wanted to talk about. Another connection to the original movie is that even though this is a video game, they really stayed true to the board game itself. You know, they kept the tagline, "A way for those who seek to find a way to leave their world behind." There were some rhyming couplet clues. There were albino rhinos, which is a reference to one of the board game pieces. When the game is completed, it turns out that the path that they took is actually the same path as the Jumanji board game, and they also show that in the credits as well. And the one big thing that I want to mention that kind of leads me into my theory about Alan Parrish is that there are a lot of elephant references in this film. They get a clue that's an elephant game piece, which happens to have been Alan Parrish's piece in the original game. They get a few handwritten notes that are like, "This piece is not what you would expect," or "When you see an elephant climb, who's writing these notes," you know? There are a couple of other elephant moments, like when they get to the last path before the end of the game, there's an elephant statue there. There's an actual real life elephant at the end of the game that helps them and is the only animal on their side. So what does this mean? Could Alan Parrish have been guiding them through Jumanji this whole time? Like the spirit of Alan Parrish, or like the spirit of Robin Williams? I don't know. There's just something about it. I feel like they were trying to leave these little hints to try to be like, there's something special going on here, you know? Did anyone else notice any of these Easter eggs or these elephant things? Am I the only one? I just thought it was really interesting. Like I said, I really loved this film. It brought back so many memories for me, and it also was something completely new. I think that they did a really beautiful job making this a sequel and a tribute to the original, but also making it its own thing. Like, it wasn't trying to replace the original Jumanji, because nothing can do that. I think this added to the story and was a lot of fun. It was thrilling, it was funny, it was such an adventure. I really loved it. I don't think I'm alone in loving this film. So far, it's killing the box office. I would love to know what you guys thought about Jumanji. Make sure to leave a comment down below and let me know. Please tell me your thoughts on the references that they made to the original movie, and do you think Alan Parrish was somehow helping guide them through the jungle? Let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you liked it and click that subscribe button because I come out with new videos every week. See ya!